My name is Caleb Kurtz, and this is my progress presentation for my final paper in WRD 204. This is an information report of additive and subtractive manufacturing. The purpose of this report is to inform first-year engineering students on the differences between additive and subtractive manufacturing. As my goal is to inform the differences between additive and subtractive manufacturing, this is an information report using mostly secondary research. The intended audience of my report are geared towards first-year engineering students. I chose this audience because these are students who are in fact on track to pick their discipline within engineering. Something that comes with that is that these students don't know much yet about what engineers do, and their classes are geared towards informing them what engineers do. I feel like it could be beneficial for these students to be informed of this principle between additive and subtractive manufacturing early on in their college career, as it could guide them to pick their discipline within engineering. I don't assume them to know much about the topic or much about manufacturing whatsoever. So with that being said, I chose a core aspect of manufacturing being the difference between additive and subtractive. A core aspect of engineering is manufacturing. This report will focus on the two principles of manufacturing being additive and subtractive. So a basic overview is additive adds things and subtractive takes things away in the manufacturing process. So with additive manufacturing is a process that adds material in the manufacturing process. A good example of this would be a 3D printer. Conceptually, it could be anything from having a piece of paper, taking a hot glue gun and gluing something on there. As long as you are adding material to the process, it is additive manufacturing. With subtractive manufacturing, this is a process in which material is removed in the manufacturing process. This can be done on a CNC machine automatically, or it can even be done manually on a lathe machine, where it's physically cutting material from a set piece. So to reach my findings, secondary research was predominantly used. This being through journals, websites, blogs, and also I wanted to state that additive and subtractive were both researched equally within my findings. My findings page is split up into three main categories. Each section contains the findings for both additive and also subtractive manufacturing. So the first section would be cost, which was the actual cost to house these machines. So the difference between cost of, say, maybe a 3D printer and then a CNC mill machine, or maybe even a 3D printer or a lathe. And then within these sections, so for that, for example, it would be additive. It would go over the cost of additive machines, and then it would go over the cost of subtractive machines. And then with that, the next section was training. So how much training is really needed to effectively use an additive process or a subtractive process. So a good example in there was most 3D printers are practically plug and play. So you could plug it into your laptop. You could run your CAD files that you've designed, and you could go ahead and little training is needed. But a good example for training for subtractive was a lot of things such as a lathe are very dangerous, and young college students would need training before they could get their hands on that. Lastly, were materials, such as what materials are often used in the additive process versus subtractive process. So for the additive process, it could be anything. Most plastics were something found to be used a lot, but overwhelmingly, it was much more harder materials were found to be used in the subtractive process, such as harder metals. There's still much more work that needs to be done. I still need a lot more research to achieve this. One of my ideas is visiting the 3D printing lab on campus to actually talk to an employee there and gain more insight. I feel like this could add more depth and use for my report, as it's geared towards first-year engineering students. This is a place that first-year engineering students would have access to and could go to pique their curiosity. The training section of my findings definitely needs to be touched up. Right now, I don't have much for the training section regarding subtractive manufacturing. The additive manufacturing was pretty easy, but it definitely, I could go back there and touch some things up. Um, with that also being said, general proofreads. After those first two bullet points are scratched off my list, I would really like to go back, read it through myself, and then go and fact check myself and make sure that the sources I'm using aren't giving me any information I don't want to put on there, any information that shouldn't be used. I have a friend in the family who is an accomplished engineer located out in Florida. I plan on emailing him my paper after it's completed and having him read it over and make sure I'm on the right track. So with that being said, this is my section where I want to leave it open for feedback or anything that you guys saw that maybe I didn't. And here's my works cited page. Thank you very much.